Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. Man, I'm so much bigger than Peter. I'm gonna get back. Peter,
Move up.
sorry, I didn't even get a chance to do as my TV. I didn't even get a chance to fix and get ready for all of this because I just got back. I just arrived from my honeymoon, Peter.
Congrats.
Thank you. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to Lemon Live. Lemon Live at 5, except we're a little bit late tonight, a special night, because I got off the plane immediately and I read my friend and former colleague, Peter Hamby's great story in Puck News. If you don't subscribe to Puck News, you're missing out on everything that has to do with media, Washington, politics, everything. So Pete Hamby is here for Live at 5. We pushed back a little bit because I have this perfect guest. He's going to be my co-pilot for this evening, and he has this huge development, a huge scoop. So believe me when I say he is amazing. So Peter, let's talk about this. You got this story because someone sent it to you. You had a source, obviously, and you've been working this story, and a source is telling you, has revealed to you some, what would you call it, private polling for the Biden campaign. Explain to our viewers what's going on.
There are, as you know, Don, you might have missed this in Europe on your honeymoon. Joe Biden had a debate.
We woke up at 3 a.m. and watched, and I actually did a show, Peter.
Yes.
Live from my honeymoon. But yeah.
Man, dedication.
Yes.
So in the wake of that, obviously there's a lot of Democratic, quote unquote, bedwetting. You have a lot of concerned Democrats. You're hearing about this today, Tuesday, on Capitol Hill. In fact, Lloyd Doggett became the first member of Congress to call on Biden to step aside. I've been kind of waiting for this. And I'll tell you more about the poll in 1 second. But the Biden campaign, in the aftermath of the debate and all of the punditry, all of the private frustration, all the Democrats texting reporters, texting John King, saying this was a disaster, he might need to get out of the race. I've been waiting for polls, really high quality polls in battleground states. There were some snap polls, national, from CNN, 538. We saw a new CNN poll Tuesday that focused on the national horse race between Biden and Trump. And really, since the debate, nothing has changed that much in the national polling. Biden went down by like a point. Obviously, voters everywhere are expressing concerns about Biden's age, his ability to continue this campaign. But there haven't been a lot of good high-quality polls of battleground states. There was one yesterday in New Hampshire showing Biden suddenly losing New Hampshire, which is a shock because New Hampshire wasn't even considered a battleground state until a couple days ago. Mm-hmm. I obtained for Puck from one of these many concerned Democrats a private memo from Open Labs. Open Labs is a very well-regarded inside Democratic politics data firm. They do really good polling and message testing that is used by a constellation of Democratic groups, including Joe Biden's own super PAC, Future Forward, and their affiliated nonprofit, Future Forward Action USA. It shows Biden not collapsing in the battleground states, but dropping by around 2 or 3 points in pretty much every big battleground state after the debate. This poll is conducted online. It's a high quality poll, again, by a very well-respected data firm. This was not supposed to get out there. Usually these are the kind of memos that stay private. The Biden campaign has been pointing to these national polls. I asked them about, do you have any state polling? They sent me more national polls. This poll shows Biden now losing by 7 points in Pennsylvania, losing Wisconsin, losing Georgia by 10 points, Arizona, Nevada, all these states. But what's really scary if you're a Democrat, and one reason that you're starting to hear more and more calls for Biden to step aside, is that Biden is now losing New Hampshire. He is narrowly losing Virginia and New Mexico. And then Maine, Minnesota, and Colorado, according to this poll from Open Labs, are all now in play. So that's like Trump landslide territory. Mm-hmm. And this is the state of play right now. What's going to happen over the next couple of weeks is we need to see if this is a trend. Like 2 rounds of polling. Is this going to keep happening in battleground states? And that gets to like the paralysis of where Biden, the Democratic Party, is right now, because the convention is obviously coming up in August. Biden is under pressure to say something, to connect more with governors, to talk to senators, assuage their concerns. Same with donors. So, but we do have to wait to see if this is a trend, or if this is just like people alarm donors, or if this is just a temporary bump in the polls for Trump. So, it's a little bit of a wait and see, but this is a pretty devastating series of figures for the Biden campaign, I would say.
So, Peter, listen, this is our show where we talk to our viewers. We usually do it live at 5 every day just to talk to subscribers. I mean, actually, Peter Hamby here talked to me and advised me on how to do these things. And do you remember when I first started and I called you and I said, I need your help if you can help me out? And you did, because you've done this before. So, Peter, I decided every day at 5 o'clock, we do Lemon Live at 5 and we talk to our subscribers. And what we have found is that our subscribers don't really like it when the news is not positive for the Biden administration. I'm sure you can understand that there are a lot of, Biden diehards it's part of our subscribers, part of our viewers, but you have to hear the truth. And Peter, I'm going to let you talk about this, but I just want to read the beginning of Peter's story. Again, it is in Puck News, in puck.news. It's puck.news.com, right?
Puck.news, that's it.
Puck.news, okay.
Yeah.
Puck.news. So make sure you read Puck.news and go to Peter Hamby's story. But a confidential polling memo circulating among anxious Democrats is confirming some of the worst fears. President Joe Biden's support has started to tumble in key electoral battlegrounds in a wake of his disastrous debate performance in Atlanta. And Biden's diminished standing is now putting previously non-competitive states like New Hampshire, Virginia, and New Mexico in play for Donald Trump. What's more, Biden has taken such a reputational hit that he is polling behind other alternative Democratic candidates, including Kamala Harris and Gretchen Whitmer, in hypothetical one-on-one matchups against Trump. Okay, so then he goes in to talk about what is happening. There's also a CNN poll, right? And we can put that up, Pete Hamby. That says that is very similar to what you're showing here. And so what is that? And the poll is coming up on the screen now, and it shows, let's see, specifically head to head in this polling, independents, Trump leads Biden 44-34. That's a whopping 10 points. Harris leads Trump 43-40. She's ahead by 3 points. And for people of color, Biden plus 21, Harris plus 29. And again, that's according to a CNN poll, a CNN News poll. So the Biden folks are trying to stem the tide, correct, Peter? When it comes, and they're trying to calm people down. He's been meeting with donors, but also we've been hearing that he's walling himself off. I don't know if you know about that reporting, and spending more time with his family, less time with other folks, maybe some of his advisors, and other people that too may have had access to him before. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, they're trying to put out a lot of fires. NBC reported that Hunter Biden is now in the White House, in bunker mode with the president. I mean, Hunter, I've understood at least at Camp David over the weekend, was one of those family members telling Biden to fight on. And so was his wife, Jill, and his sister, Valerie, we should mention, is also a very important advisor here. The Biden family, I should say, this, Don, like they view Biden as like the comeback kid. I know that people talk about Bill Clinton that way, but especially he's been around public life for half a century, but in the last 5 years, came back from the dead in the Democratic primary. The Inflation Reduction Act was dead until it wasn't. He was dead in the midterms until he wasn't. So they think he's always counted out by the media. This moment feels bigger than that. You see Democratic governors today, they told Jake Tapper, they had a meeting without staffers expressing concerns, wanting to hear from Joe Biden. We saw Jim Clyburn on Capitol Hill, one of Biden's biggest allies on the Hill. He came out on MSNBC today, Don, and said, I would support Kamala Harris if she was the nominee.
Yeah.
That's one of Biden's closest allies. He
resurrected him in 2020 when he was down, right?
In South Carolina. And if someone like someone like Clyburn is at least mentioning that possibility, that's exactly what the Biden campaign doesn't want. They don't want to open the door to any of these alternatives. Now, that CNN poll you mentioned is very interesting. And the Open Labs poll that I obtained has some similar data. The differences are the CNN poll, good poll, our friends at CNN, national poll. That's a national horse race test they were running with all of those other hypothetical candidates, Gretchen Whitmer, Kamala Harris. Open Labs, again, different kind of polling firm, different kind of poll, a lot of online data, a lot of extrapolation, but they use the voter file, they use demographics. This is an extremely well-regarded Democratic firm that Democratic campaigns trust. They found that Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, and Gretchen Whitmer are all outpolling Joe Biden in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Nevada, Georgia, Arizona, and North Carolina in the key battlegrounds. Now, there's a little bit of a hiccup with polls like this. Most Americans know who Joe Biden is. Most Americans know who Kamala Harris is, and they have their opinions about them. Fewer Americans, as much as we in the political press talk about these names all the time, they don't know who Gretchen Whitmer is. They don't know who Gavin Newsom is. They don't know who Pete Buttigieg is. So Open Labs did something where they basically did name recognition adjustment, where they extrapolated using the voter file what voters who have an opinion about someone like Gretchen Whitmer might think if like that's expanded to a larger universe of voters. And this poll, again, found that Whitmer, Harris, Newsom, Buttigieg, all beating Biden in the horse race against Trump. Some caveats: that's a head-to-head race, not a multi-candidate race, including RFK Jr. or Jill Stein or Cornel West or the Libertarian. But this poll found that Whitmer and Buttigieg in particular did pretty well. And we should mention when we're playing, Democratic candidate fantasy sports here, a lot of the reasons Democrats like Gretchen Whitmer isn't just that they think she's a good politician. It's that she's from Michigan.
They need Michigan.
Yeah, they need Michigan. Josh Shapiro in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Take those two states off the board immediately. And Gretchen Whitmer gets, again, according to this survey I obtained, 54% of the vote in Michigan. That's a blowout. So these are numbers that the Biden folks don't want to see as they try to put out all of these fires. But they're also numbers that, I guarantee you these poll numbers are in the hands of all of the people I just mentioned. They've seen it today. The question is, what do you do with that? Because there's not really a lane unless Biden drops out.
Okay, two things. So Gretchen Whitmer would take care, I'm just saying, wherever, if she's on the ticket, if he's not, this is hypothetical, would take care of two problems, right? The problems that they have with, because of Gaza and Israel, right? And losing support among young people when it comes to that. Also, I mean, she would win Michigan, right? So she would take care of that because they need the state. I guess that's one problem, sort of two problems. It would help them with the sentiment around that, but also just win the state, which is ultimately what they need. And then, but how much of this as well, Pete, is it just, I like Kamala Harris, I like Gretchen Whitmer, I like Pete Buttigieg, or is it just, I don't think Biden is the guy, so I'm going to vote for someone else? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think it's, again, like West Wing fanfic in a lot of ways. I've seen this in recent weeks. Let's just swap in Gavin Newsom. Like there are rules. You have to go through the convention. Over 2,000 delegates have to figure that out.
Well, first of all, let's just say, I want you to go through that scenario, but
yeah,
but the money, what is it, like $200 million or whatever they have? That has been earmarked for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris would be the next in line to get the money, right? And then the scenario at the convention. So go on, sorry. Yeah,
that's my understanding, is the federal campaign account would transfer to Kamala Harris. Okay. I think if Democrats, if the DNC figured out a different ticket, I'm sure they could come up with some legal route to move the money wherever they wanted to. There's something interesting here, though, that is sort of in between the two questions you asked. Yes, Biden, people don't like him. They would take anyone, put generic Democrat on the ticket, and we'll beat Trump. The thing is, that's very risky. We'll talk about the convention in a second. Newsom, Whitmer, these people aren't tested nationally. Whether you like Kamala Harris or not, we know her strengths, we know her assets. I interviewed her a few months ago for my Snapchat show, Good Luck America. I found her to be much more impressive than she was just a year ago. Yeah. And that just comes from batting practice when you're vice president. Right. You're in meetings with world leaders, you're doing more press, you're going to more events, you just get better. And so we know what her assets and liabilities are. She's not very popular, but according to polls in recent days, including CNN, slightly more popular than Joe Biden suddenly. Are there skeletons in the closet for Gretchen Whitmer and Josh Shapiro and Gavin Newsom? Like, the public has to learn about these people. They don't have as much name ID. So there's a little bit of a risk factor there. So I think that like Kamala Harris in some ways would bring some liabilities, but also an asset would be she's been through the ringer. People know her. She's run for president. She's been vice president. Like, there's no skeletons there, at least that we know.
Okay, before you talk about the convention, though, because I was having this conversation with some people in Washington, and the thing is it's and what folks were asking me is, what has Kamala Harris achieved, right? What has she accomplished? And the answer was, well, what have other vice presidents have become? What have they accomplished? And I said, well, that can't be your answer, because if you want to be honest, Dick Cheney was the de facto president, right? Well, Al Gore before that. Al Gore was climate change. And of course, he discovered the internet. I say that tongue in cheek. And then Dick Cheney was a de facto president. Everybody thought that Dick Cheney was calling the shots. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I'm sure he had a huge influence, as we know, in that administration. And then Barack Obama had Joe Biden. I think the whole reason Joe Biden was on the ticket was because of his foreign policy experience, because of his connections in the Senate, right? His governing experience, and he knew politics. And Barack Obama had none of that. He was a freshman senator, and so that's Kamala. So Kamala Harris is Barack Obama all over again, sort of. You understand what I'm saying? So, but what has she done?
Look, we know that she started out having been given a brief to stem illegal immigration, border crossings from the Northern Triangle. That didn't really go well, was not her strong suit. When I interviewed her a few months ago, her mission, her brief had been moved toward reaching out to younger voters, talking about abortion rights and the fight to protect them. Those are her strong suits. There have been polling. I mean, again, I work at Snapchat. A lot of my focus is on Gen Z and their views of the political world. There is polling out there showing she's slightly better than Biden is in terms of approval rating among Gen Z and millennials. So
that's good.
That would be good. I think this, and again, this is based some of my conversations with Democrats in recent days, but also I think this is true. It's less about the accomplishments and it's more about you're just a vehicle for democratic values. I don't think a lot of people knew about Joe Biden's many accomplishments in the Senate, and some of his accomplishments turned out to be drawbacks in a Democratic primary. Now, the crime bill in 1994 is a good example. But he was just there to get rid of Trump, and people trusted him to do that. If Joe Biden decides to drop out of the race and it's Kamala Harris or it's Gretchen Whitmer or Pete Buttigieg or whomever, I don't think people are going to be worried as much about their accomplishments. I think it's, again, for Democrats who want to get excited about voting for somebody, and for maybe independents who are worried about Trump and queasy about Trump, and maybe some of those Nikki Haley Republicans, they just want somebody that they can sort of trust to go in there who isn't Donald Trump. And I don't know if Kamala Harris's accomplishments matters, but I agree with what you said too. Like, vice presidents, there's the whole bucket of warm spit thing. Like, they don't do a lot.
They don't, and they are overshadowed on purpose by the president. They don't want,
they get attention for all the bad things. It's like HBO, right? It's like Veep. You get attention for the bad stuff, and you get no credit for the good stuff. And if you have a ideological messaging, any kind of difference with the guy in the Oval Office, you got to keep your mouth shut. Like, it's just like a no-win situation. So you get all like the president's liabilities and none of the assets of being in the White House. But I don't think in this case, because Democrats think this is a 5-alarm emergency right now. I think they would be happy with anybody other than Biden. Okay, so I'm glad you said all of that, and I want to hear about the convention, but I just want to hear. So guys, weigh in the comments if you want to. But here's what they're saying. The polls are totally accurate, says Steve. And he says, LOL, I can think it was sarcasm, says Steve Warwick. And we know the polls aren't always accurate. Anybody can beat Trump. Vote blue, people, says Nick McNeil. Biden all the way, says Rosetta Johnson. Let's see. Will Butte Jr. says, Don Lemon, I'm a Republican. And did you see Alan Lichtman, who has been correct for the last 10 years? Pete, can you talk about that? I feel like you might have interviewed him before on your show over the years, maybe. He's the guy who's got the like 13
I know Alan very
qualifications.
well. Yes.
Yeah, and he never misses. He's like the Steph Curry of like political scientists. He's
I
like,
think we both predicted Trump in 2016, but go on.
you did?
Yeah, I
I
did.
forgot about that.
I know people hated me, like they in the comments when we talk reality about it. But listen, I used to get kicked out of parties because I said, look, this guy's going to win. I'm sorry that you guys are. And they're like, no, he's not. But anyways.
I can't take credit for making that prediction, but I think something that you and I both have in common, having been reared in the American South, is like being in touch with society outside of our blue liberal bubbles in the cities.
Yeah.
And so we at least have an antenna for contrary opinions. Look, Lichtman, everyone should go Google him. He does have a pretty like sterling record in terms of predicting presidents. And he's got all of these non-polling benchmarks to that predict a president. A good example would be if you don't have a primary challenge, you have a better chance of winning. Biden didn't really have a primary challenge. I'm not going to criticize the guy. Better record than me. But I actually saw him, I think, on CNN with Abby Phillip the other night, Don, and he said if there is a convention challenge, that would actually mean Biden might lose because it would violate Lichtman's rules of campaigns or whatever. And look, I've seen some people on Twitter say LBJ stepped aside. You forget in 1968, Nixon won. Like he stepped aside. The Democratic Party was in chaos. Like all of this is very, very much a risk. I also want to talk like the previous comments you mentioned. I'm feeling that on Twitter too. The CNN poll found today that Biden has actually consolidated support among Democrats since the debate. They raised over $30 million in small donations after the debate. There is a rallying effect that we've seen a little bit in the Biden campaign in the White House. They told me the same thing. Democrats feel that Biden is unfairly under attack, and so they're rallying to his side. That's sort of like the through the looking glass version of like when Trump gets indicted, Republicans give him money and they come to his side. But it's just an interesting moment because you have professional insider Democrats, including the people who ran this poll that I found for Puck, who are worried about, they're reading the polls, they're worried about the ramifications. You also have normie Democrats out there who saw the debate and were scared and angry, quite frankly, that Biden put them in this position. But you also have a lot of Biden stands out there and just purebred Democrats who think that Trump is way worse. Trump is a threat to democracy. And why are we focusing on this guy's age when he wants to deport people, put people in prison, go after his enemies, might undo the Constitution, Project 2025, whatever. And so,
those things are important and they're true, by the way.
So I think that's where some of those comments were coming from too.
But also I've noticed that on social media, I've seen it as well. And who April Ryan is, right?
Yeah.
It's a White House reporter. She worked for Urban Radio's networks for a long time as a White House correspondent. And she said, Don, I was texting her the other day and she said, I've seen a lot of sort of sympathy and people galvanizing around the president. And it actually may have helped him in many corners. I don't know if it helped him with the Democratic bigwigs, but at least it got some people on his side and even some young people. But I do have to tell you, the campaign, obviously, they're all in. I spoke to them today, and they're still working on ways. They have this big strategy of trying to win. Listen, it's up to Biden and people like Anita Dunn. And to get the big donors, right? To keep bringing the big donors in, but for the younger people, the people of color, the White House Office of Engagement, they're all especially Black engagement, Hispanic engagement, all of that. They're all in and they're out there trying to get as much help as possible. On that side, I don't see that much of a change coming. But who knows? Do you feel that these calls, though, from Democrats are going to continue to grow? Because if you saw, one of the Castro brothers was on MSNBC. Did you see it? Was it Julian?
It's probably Julian. He doesn't like Biden very much.
Yeah, he said it would be better off without Biden as a candidate. So, anyways.
Yeah, Julian Castro has been. He was kind of mean to. I mean, whatever. He's allowed to have his opinion. He's been a Biden critic since going back to the primaries. Julian Castro ran for the Democratic nomination. Right. Got totally smoked, by the way. Yeah. He was like, but he, after the debate, was one of few Democrats. He's a former, not a current, we should say, who put his name to a tweet, an X, saying this is a disaster. And
Yeah.
so I think what we've seen in the last 24 hours, Don, and might see more of in the next 24 days is, again, like I said in the beginning of this conversation, high quality polling that shows Biden in deep, deep trouble in battleground states and jeopardizing down ballot House and Senate Democrats.
Don't make me lose subscribers, but go on.
Sorry,
Sorry.
too dorky. But look, again, here, I promise, don't click out, everybody. A Democrat in Texas, Lloyd Doggett, senior ranking Democrat, came out today and said Joe Biden should step aside for the good of the country. Why? I don't care if you know who Lloyd Doggett is, but he's worried about Democrats not being able to take back the House. Their politicians are self-interested creatures. They're looking out for themselves. And so I think we might see more Democrats coming out and saying that if we see more polling showing Biden losing ground.
Can I ask you something, Pete? You said you would give me at least 30 minutes. Do you have to go? You can be very transparent.
Give me two more.
Okay. 2 more questions, you mean, or 2 more minutes?
2 more questions. Yeah.
Okay.
And I gotta go.
So do you remember the infamous Access Hollywood tape, right? When every Republican came on CNN when I was anchoring that night. Oh, I cannot support him, Don. This man cannot be our nominee, blah, 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 blah. And then 5 days later, they were all kissing his butt again. Can that happen?
Yes. Yeah. This could be a blip. It could be. We need to see, again, whether this is a trend or a blip. Now, I talked to a couple of members of the DNC. And again, the DNC, not a shadowy cabal. It's not like it is opaque. It's confusing. It's really just a bunch of party activists from all over the country. But these are the people who at a convention would decide, the nomination process. 2 different members of the DNC said, we're just in a holding pattern right now and supporting the president. Like, it's his call if he stays in the race or doesn't.
Okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
So real quick, did you read the New York Times Peter Baker article?
From today?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. So there's an article, we'll talk to it after Peter's gone, but it talks about how the president's, can we say mindset, demeanor, over the last couple of weeks. Okay. So we'll talk about that. I urge you to read it. The other thing is, you said you were going to talk about the convention. Can you give us a cliff notes before you go? What happens now? Let's say they do decide to put up one of those people that we talked about. I would prefer if it's Joe Biden and everything works out. I couldn't say that when I was in traditional media because I actually do care about the democracy. I think that he has a better chance. He's a bigger name. He saved us in 2020. So what happens? What's the scenario?
The scenario is
at the convention. Yeah.
The easiest thing, the thing all these panicked Democrats hope for, sometime before the convention in August, Joe Biden says, I will not accept the nomination. At that point, it's too late to hold any primaries and caucuses. I'm sure the CNNs of the world and MSNBCs will have a bunch of forums and debates for Gretchen Whitmer and Kamala Harris, et cetera, to compete. But what they're really doing is talking to the 2,000 some delegates to the convention in Chicago. They're the ones who would vote in a roll call to nominate their nominee. And that is a very, it feels a little anti-democratic. It feels a little smoke-filled room. But, these potential candidates, the Gavin Newsoms, if they want to run, they're going to go to Chicago. They're going to call these delegates. These are just normal activist nerds in whatever state and say, can I count on your support? Can I count on your support? Like 2,000 people. So there's that. The other thing that could happen, which feels very unlikely, is that there could be a challenge to Biden at the convention. And that would be the sort of old school floor fight where, a rebellious group of delegates bands together, rises to challenge Joe Biden's nomination. And then they'd have to put up somebody to be against him and also get 50% of the delegates. That just feels very unlikely. If Biden stays in the race, again, in my conversations with DNC members, stays in the race, they're going to stay with them because that's the thing. These are not a rebellious group of people. They're very establishment-minded folks, these delegates. They're close to their state parties in Austin, in Richmond, in Baton Rouge, wherever. Like they are
Baton Rouge.
They're not a lot of Bernie bros. They're not like super rebellious. So they're pretty deferential to Biden, I would say.
Yeah. I think that there was one more thing before I let you go. I promise I'll let you get to this.
Yeah.
So everyone that I speak to, and I think it would be interesting, they said, well, if Biden doesn't do it, if Biden, decides to drop out, I think a Harris Obama ticket would be great. And I was like, Michelle Obama's never going to do it. And they go, no, I mean Barack. Have you heard that? Now, we went through this in 2015 and 2016. Remember, can Hillary Clinton can she select Barack Obama as her vice president? Technically, she can. So what do you think about this ticket, the possibility of that?
I think Barack Obama really likes his life right now. He'd rather be on Richard Branson's yacht, playing golf, making Netflix movies. But you're right. And I wrote about this for Puck too. Again, this is West Wing fantasy fiction. But technically, under the Constitution, and there's been some political science around this, a two-term president can serve as vice president, and say the president dies and Obama just becomes president. That's also possible.
Yeah. It would go against the spirit of the 22nd Amendment? Yeah, 22nd Amendment, right? No, it's not. The 25th Amendment is a removal. It would go against the spirit of the 22nd Amendment. So, but who knows? It's legally possible. It can't happen. Yeah. Pete Hamby. Okay. Thank you. I wish you could say the whole hour, but that's okay. Pete, this is a good man, y'all. Make sure you read puck.news and also Snapchat. Where else can we find you, Pete? What do you have going on?
Follow me on X, Twitter, whatever, at Peter Hamby. Puck and Snapchat are the main vehicles. Two very different audiences. Yeah. I got Gen Z, millennial, and then I got all the Puck readers over here. Yeah. But follow me. I appreciate it. Thanks, Don. Congrats on the show. Congrats on getting married.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. I appreciate it. Peter Hamby, everybody. We'll see you soon, Peter. Thanks for coming on. Okay, guys. So listen, just remember that all of this is, these are just scenarios that are possibly playing out. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. Okay. Oh, we got both of us up there now. Let me fix that so that it's not so weird where you see me up on the screen. So these are just possible scenarios. It doesn't mean any of this is going to happen. And remember, as I just said a short time ago, remember when Donald Trump did the entire, when it was the Access Hollywood thing, and every Republican, establishment Republican, said, there's no way I'm going to support this man. There's no way I'm going to endorse him. There's no way he could be president of the United States. Everyone thought he was out. And there was that was a scandal. This is not a scandal. This is, this is an unusual development. I would like to call this an October surprise that happened in July. But so I did this show because I want you to have the knowledge and I want you to have the news. I don't think that people should be so negative on Joe Biden. Remember that. I don't think that people should be so negative on Joe Biden. I think that if you have a candidate and someone is there, then you should support that candidate. But if the party is calling for him to drop out, and if he does decide to drop out, that should be his business, okay? Only he can decide that. So I'm not going to, everyone had a take. I was in Italy on my honeymoon, and everyone had a take, and everyone was trying to get me to post on social media and tell me what I thought and what's my take. I had a sort of a knee-jerk reaction after the debate where I said, his performance wasn't great, and then it wasn't. And let's be honest, it was not. Even he has said that. And it is absolutely 100% it is concerning. But I think that they have to make a decision fairly quickly, but it doesn't have to be overnight. And whatever Joe Biden and Jill Biden and the family and the administration decide and the campaign, that's their business. Now, it's going to come a point where I'm going to say he's got to make a decision. Now, if you want to know the truth, how I feel, it is that debate performance was shocking to me, especially watching it from afar. And watching it not being part of a big news organization, just sort of like almost like as a citizen journalist, it was very concerning from the moment he walked out to the Voice. And that whole subject about age and whatever, that really I don't like talking about it because I think that's individual. My mother, Nancy Pelosi, other members who are in Congress and the Senate, my friend Clive Davis, who's in his 90s, very sharp. Joe Biden did not project sharp at the debate, and he hasn't over the last couple of days. Now, I know everyone was, in the chat, on my social media, texting me, emailing me saying, oh, did you see him at the rally the next day? I did see him at the rally the next day, and that was great. He did look better. But remember that rally is on teleprompter, okay? So I would love, and I support Joe Biden, okay? But I'm also a journalist and I'm a realist, and I have to report to you what I see. So let's see what happens moving forward. There's a knee-jerk reaction. Let's see, maybe he's tired from, going overseas and debate prep and all those things and actually dealing with the problems of the world. So let's see what happens. Let's monitor him and watch him over the next couple of days, and let's see what happens. But I mean, even you guys who get upset when you don't think that we're all positive for the Biden administration, even you have to be realistic about what's going on. Debbie Hagan says mini stroke. Debbie, I don't know that because the doctors have not reported that. The doctors did say they checked him for Parkinson's. There's no Parkinson's, and they said normal aging. That's what his doctors say. So that's how I feel. Now, my one-woman focus group is a little lady. She wouldn't mind if I called her a little lady, maybe, who lives in Louisiana, who watches everything I do and who watches everything the Biden administration does and Joe Biden, and also watches everything that Trump does. She is not a fan of Donald Trump, especially since he attacked me so much when he was running in 2016 and after he became the president. She has no love for Donald Trump. She's all in on Biden. All right. She's my one-woman focus group, and usually she's right. And she said to me after the debate, she goes, I don't care if they wheel him out in a wheelchair. I don't care whatever. I am going to vote for Biden because the other person is not good for this country. Biden is good for the country. He is a good man. He is a good person. And so she is all in, and she's going to vote for Biden. And then when I landed today and I started texting her and talking to her, I actually called her about the polling and the possibility of Kamala Harris and so on and so forth. She said, well, I love Joe. I want it to be Joe. But if it happens to be one of those and Joe does decide, I don't want him to leave, but if he decides, then I'm all in on Kamala. I'm all in on anybody in the Democratic Party, she says, but Donald Trump. And that doesn't mean, look, I guess she's a Democrat, now, but my mom hasn't always been liberal. She just knows that another Trump administration would be detrimental for the country, would be detrimental for women of color, would be detrimental to people of color, it would be detrimental to democracy. And I stand with her on that. And Black women be knowing, as they say. Black women be knowing. That's almost like they not like us. I know it's they're not like us. And I know it's Black women know. Black women be knowing. That's how we say it. And so Black women are all in for Joe Biden and for, I believe, whoever will be the Democratic nominee. They're not standing for this Trump shit. They're not buying it. There may be some brothers out there, some Black men who are doing that. And they need to be informed a bit more, and you need to help them be informed a bit more. But if I look at a focus group and I want to know who's on the right side of history and who's doing the right thing, I'm going to lead towards the Black women because they are constantly saving us from disaster. Okay? They saved us from the disaster that would be Donald Trump in 2020. And I think they will be the bulwark between another Trump administration this time that will save us. I think my internet is a little choppy. I did not put in the Ethernet today. My bad. Sorry. I was rushing to get back. So anyways, I want to know what you think. I'll read a couple of your comments and I'll take a couple of your questions. And I thank you for understanding. I was away last week. I had to have a honeymoon. I had a fantastic vacation. Let me know if you want to hear about it. We can talk about a whole bunch of things, a whole litany of things. And so let's see. All women and Black women will save us, says Will Butte Jr. That's true partially, but white women voted for Donald Trump both times, okay, by a huge majority. So there are women, yes, they know. But for the most part, white women will vote for, historically, and over the two times that Donald Trump won, white women by a majority voted for him. EG says, that is a fact, Don. We're constantly saving the country from its worst intentions. It's true. And you cannot deny that. It's not racist. It's not biased. It's the absolute truth. If you look at the number of Black women who voted for Donald Trump, last time and the time before that, then you'll know what I'm talking about. You're right, Don. I love black women. They're my sister, says Carrie King. Janice, let's see. E. Wood says Harris and Biden just reverse the roles. I don't know. That could be a possibility. B.A. Ware says U.S. Census Bureau. U.S. Census Bureau says that a black female population in the United States was 21.7 million. Maureen Marfell, go girl. Maureen Marfell says, not this white woman, with 2 exclamation marks. Okay, I feel you. Winky Campbell says, yes, we do. Happy you and Tim had a honeymoon. Politicians are looking out for the people enough, says Gabriel Flores. I agree with that. Frank Camacho says, it's a fact. Please stop considering, says Verganians, please stop considering the people you want to be president. Consider people who will win the election. Oh my gosh. That is the most genius comment of the night. That is the most genius comment of the night. Please stop considering the people you want to be president and consider the people who will win. Did you guys hear that? That's the absolute 100%. Zen Master Sports and Shorts says Kamala is not like us, but you want us to feel shame for a non-ADOS woman who may get skipped. Okay. I get what you're saying about that, but that's not. This is not the time nor the place for that. Don says, Millionaire D, please cover Project 2025. We are going to talk about that. As a matter of fact, I want to prepare some shows for this week to discuss that. And then I think we may be better preparing some shows for after the 4th of July holiday, actually, because more people will be tuned in. People are going to be tuning out a lot because they're going to be dealing with their family, barbecue pits, at the beach, traveling, or whatever. Project 2025 is real. Project 2025 is real. Okay. I can't understand voting against one's best interest, says Hamilton. I agree with you, but people do it all the time. Juris L says, DL, would love to hear about your honeymoon. Okay, so I'll tell you about my honeymoon. So Tim and I were planning. So here's what happened. All right, guys, so don't think it's weird. So I have a friend who got married last year in Italy, and he did it in Italy, okay? And he asked me to officiate as his friend. And so he paid for us to come to, we went last year. And then, so I married him in Italy on the Amalfi Coast. And so then this year, as a thank you and a wedding present, he said, I want you guys to come to Italy with us again. And we said, well, we're going to, it's our honeymoon. They said, well, come. And anyway, we'll take care of some of it. And we did. So our friend, as a wedding present, had us come to Italy with them. And so I call it a honeymoon plus. So we went on our honeymoon and we spent time with some friends who we love the most. And some of it is on social media. A lot of it's not. And I was like, should I put this on there? Because it seems extravagant. But this is a friend who is a wealthy person who can afford it. And we were just lucky enough that they were able to include us in their trip as well. You hear my dog, Gus, is barking in the backyard. So that's where I went. We went to Italy and we went to Sardinia and we traveled around and it was beautiful. And we spent time with friends and we had dinners together every night. We had lunches together every day. We played in the sea. I ate way too much. I gained probably about 10 pounds. You can probably see, look how fat my face is. It's usually a lot thinner. And I flew back in today. Well, actually, we flew from Italy yesterday to, Tim had never seen Amsterdam. He had never been to Amsterdam. So we flew into Amsterdam and we spent the night and had dinner in Amsterdam. So it was a great evening. We flew in the afternoon. We got a hotel. I did an emergency show from the hotel room with Michelle Murray to talk about the Supreme Court decision on immunity. And then, by the way, let's talk about immunity in a second. And then we flew back this morning. And then I got to the airport late. I got to tell you a story too. We got to the airport and I went through the global reentry or global entry, in customs. And I got stopped in Holland though, and they checked my bag. It took forever, right? And so I had they checked my bag because I had all of this. I had the microphone, in my bag, and I had my lights and everything. And so they thought they didn't know what it was, but I probably thought it was some sort of electric equipment, or maybe it could be bombing. I don't know. But anyways, so they checked, and it took me like an hour to get through. We got back, so I went right through global entry, and Tim has it as well, but he got flagged for some reason. And so they made me wait on the other side of the glass, and I kept waiting for him. And I was like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What's taking so long? The dogs are out there waiting, and with their dog sitter, and the car service is out there for us as well. And I'm like, what's going on? And he said, I was stopped, and they brought me into this room because they say I have a stolen passport. I was like, you're kidding me, right? He goes, no, I'm not. He goes, if you want to go home because you have to do your show, then you can go. But I can't leave right now because I'm in this room. And anyway, so I waited a little bit, and he said, okay, I'm coming up. And it was a glitch. They had a mistake. So they thought Tim was like some fugitive or some like smuggler or something. It was weird, but some glitch with his passport. He said he didn't mind being flagged because he knows they're looking out. But he said that actually the people were very rude. He didn't like the way they spoke to him. So anyways, so that's our trip. And now we're back. We were in traffic. And so I said, I'm not going to be home. I'll make it home just about 6 o'clock, but I need time to prepare. So let's do it at 7 o'clock. And look, the engagement is great at 7 o'clock. So maybe we should do it 7 Eastern. Maybe we should do it more often. But what do you guys think? I want to know. So thank you for listening to that. So what do you guys think? Do you think that the president should continue on? Do you? Do you want it to be Kamala Harris or someone else? Do you think that Joe Biden maybe just needs a break? I don't know. Don, like the time change, says spring 20E. I got to tell you, my sister who's in this chat as well likes a time change. Her name is Ema, YMA, Lemon, if you want to know. She's on there. And my mom is Kat Clark. She's in there too. Or Kay Clark. I forget how she's in there. She's also in these chats, in these streets. Also, Lloyd and Joey on Delta. You guys were great. Lloyd says he watches live at 5 every day. So Lloyd, I don't know if you're in here, but if you are, make yourself known. And everyone say hello to Lloyd and Joey. I told him I was going to shout them out on today's show. And they were so great to us on Delta. And Delta knew it was our honeymoon. They gave us champagne. It was really great. So what do you guys think? Hi, Don's family, says RJ. So what do you guys think? I'm so happy to talk to you. I haven't had a chance to speak to you guys that much. Yesterday was really quick. What do you think? Biden for 2024, says Juris Girl. Let's see. Best check Tim's sock, the sock wearer, whatever. No, it was a glitch. Tim is not a fugitive, and he's not a smuggler. 7 p.m. is better, says Denise, 1963. Okay, 7 o'clock works for me, says Candace Carrington. My sister has been saying it all the time that she wants it to be later. Deborah Mallory says, thank you, God, I get to see Don Lemon. I watch you daily on CNN. You're so smart and missed. Thank you, Deborah Mallory. I'm here. You don't have to miss me. I'm here. Lisa Wow says, that's Kat Clark, OMG. Yeah, that's my mother. That's my mother in these chats. Be nice to her. Lippy Lefty says, Bernie, Harris, Beto, M. Obama. Well, you can't have all of those. Biden 2024, as I said, Juris Girl says, I like Pete Buttigieg, says Beth H. Love President Biden, says Charlotte Scurry. Okay, so you guys seem to be all in on what the president is saying. Now let's see what our poll says. Do you think Tim stole a passport? 20% say yes with a winky smile. No, of course not, says 80% in the poll. That's hilarious. When he told me that, you know what I thought? I thought that someone has stolen his passport and made a fake one or something, and that's what the flag was. Civil Duma says 7 o'clock. Okay, well, think about it. Give that passport back, Tim, says Andy Moore. Anna Cooley says, I'm sticking with Biden. Thank you, Anna. I like Pete, says Monica Meadows. Appreciate your work, says Frank Dorigo. And congratulations. Thank you so much. Listen, I got to tell you, I had Pete Hamby on. Pete was so helpful in advising me when I first started doing this. And he's just a great guy. I worked with him for years at CNN. He's very smart. He works with Snapchat, but he knows his shit. Okay. Yes, let's talk about your honeymoon. We did that, Dr. Mack. Come on. What more do you want to know? If we defeat Trump, his curse is broken, says Clint Westman. Listen, I got to tell you, if we'll discuss Project 2025, but if you want a democracy, if you don't want, a dictator, especially considering what happened with this immunity ruling by the Supreme Court yesterday, then you better get your butt out there and vote and figure something out. Okay, you better. Email him and says, "I told you 7 o'clock." Yes, sis, you did. Can Harris win against Trump? Chick. Okay, that's what Chick says. Can Harris win against Trump? That's the whole question. Okay. So I like to be a realist. And so I'm sort of trying to ease you guys into the possibility or the reality that there could be another candidate, that Joe Biden might not be the candidate, even if you want him, right? Even if you want him. Things don't always work out as you want. I think anything is possible. I think it will be tough for the vice president for a number of reasons. Okay. But if she's in, I think she's a qualified woman. She's very smart. And I think it's going to be tough for her for myriad reasons. And we will go into that once, in a little bit. But she is polling better than the president at this point. You guys, are leery of polling, as you should be, considering what happened in 2016. And the polling in 2020 also said that Joe Biden was down. And Pete Hamby was right. Joe Biden has had so many comebacks. I do feel that this is different, though. I think that the debate performance was halting and startling for many people, and that has stuck in their minds. I do think that the Republicans and Donald Trump will put ads and ad after ad after ad after ad of President Biden mumbling, not answering questions, losing his train of thought. And some will say freezing. They're going to put that up there, and they're going to say, "Do you want this guy?" And it's going to be the same thing about the 3 a.m. phone call as they did with Hillary Clinton. And they're going to do the same thing that they did with Hillary Clinton when she got sick and she fainted at the 9/11 memorial back when they were running in 2016. And they're going to, they've already put the videos up of some fake videos of President Biden freezing. So imagine what they're going to do with the real stuff. Okay. So Sultan Desink says, many of us feel betrayed by the people who hid his state of health. That's interesting. Bama Planter says, yes, get ready for the old man Biden ads. Yes, I agree. So here's the thing, though. Someone said Jasmine Crockett let her run Aretha H. I think it's a bit early for Jasmine Crockett to run. Here's the thing. Yes, there is reporting that they're sort of isolating President Biden, and they're letting people see the Biden that they want him to see. They said, he takes naps, whatever. I take naps. I love him. People live longer who take naps. I don't have a problem with that. They say sometimes he's really, really sharp. Sometimes he's confused. Okay. Make sure you read Peter Baker's story in the New York Times today. Now, again, that doesn't mean all of this stuff is right and accurate. A lot of stuff you have to take with a grain of salt. Okay. I said, hold on to something. I can't remember. Remind me what I see. I can't even remember. I said, hold that thought as it relates to something. And now I can't even remember what it is. But producers, if you're on, can you please put a link of the book in the Amazon link? Because I want you guys to pre-order the book, because we talk about all of these issues. Okay. Also, you're also getting to see the Donald Trump that people want you to see as well, because Donald Trump has lapses. Donald Trump misspeaks. Donald Trump, thinks that Nancy Pelosi is Nikki Haley. Donald Trump is just a few years younger than Joe Biden. He does not present as old as Joe Biden, but he does have lapses. And guess what? The man lies a lot. He lied the entire debate. He lied about, all kinds of things. I don't even know where to start, where to begin. He lies about pretty much everything. It is so natural to him to lie. Lying to him is like telling the truth. He doesn't know the difference between a lie and the truth. And that's problematic. Donald Trump slurs his speech sometimes too, says Tisha. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. He does slur. General Milley, Kenny says, Newsom and General Milley, that's who you want to run. But the generals and John Kelly, I mean, the generals aren't supporting him, the people who were in his campaign. John Kelly has said that he says outrageous things about our men and women of service and our men and women who have died in war, calling them suckers and losers or whatever. He's denied all of that. He denied that he slept with a porn star. At the debate, he said, I didn't sleep with a porn star. We all know that's a lie because he paid her $130,000. I don't understand. This is what, as I was watching the debate, I don't understand. First of all, remember I told you guys before the debate, I said, I think that they're over preparing Joe Biden because he's already doing the job as president. And he only needs a few things in his head just a few things to fall back on. Number one, you're a criminal. Number two, this is the best economy. Number three, you ran the economy into the ground during COVID and a whole lot of people died. Okay. So having said that, I did not understand. I thought there should be, someone said CNN dropped the debate ball. One boga. I don't know. I can't say that CNN dropped the debate ball. I thought Dana Bash and Jake Tapper, both of whom are former colleagues and dear friends. Dana was at my wedding. I think there should have been some fact checking. I believe in debates that you should fact check people. And I believe that the moderators, it should be an onus on the moderators to fact check. Okay. But the bigger onus is on the opposing candidate to do the fact checking. It was easy for Joe Biden to fact check Donald Trump, and he didn't have to fact check him with all these numbers, trillions and billions and whatever that he was mixing up. All he had to do was just say, that's not wrong. It shows that my economy was better than yours and blah, blah, blah. He didn't have to have all the numbers. I would have come out right away. They came out talking about the economy when what was really on people's minds was the age and the cognitive ability of both candidates. So if I were President Biden and Jake or Dana had asked me a question, the first thing I would say was, first off, Jake or Dana, I'm happy to be here. And I'm going to answer your question, but I am flummoxed at this point to understand why I am even in the position to be on a stage with a convicted felon of 34 counts, someone who has been found guilty of raping a woman, according to the judge, liable for sexual assault, someone who has slept with a porn star, who has been impeached twice, who incited an insurrection. I am surprised that I and the American people are in this position. Now, having said that, let me answer your question. Boom. Everyone would say, boom, knockout, Joe Biden wins. I don't know why he didn't do that. Maybe they just said, maybe they were just this whole, when they go low, we go high. I would have gone low from the beginning. And guess what? Low is not low when it is true. That is the truth. He is a convicted felon many times over, 34 counts. He was found liable of sexually assaulting E. Jean Carroll. And according to the judge, that meant rape. Look it up. I know that they say he wasn't found liable for rape. Go do your fact check on it and see what the judge says about it. So, Lady Rock says Biden won't ever say that, Don. Biden should say that. Biden should say that because it's the absolute truth. Jake and Dan, I want to answer your question. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, to this debate, and I'm so grateful to be here. I am just shocked, and I'm sad for the American people that I and they, especially they, have been put in a position where the next president of the United States, I'm not going to let that happen, but it could possibly be a convicted felon, a liar. I'm just saying there was a way to do it. Okay. So anyway, that's what I would have done. Guys, look at the top of you before you go. Make sure you hit the, I'm gonna hit the thumbs up on my own thing. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, like and subscribe, and make sure you share. You can share. You can go to the channel and get our link, and you can share it with people, and to make sure that they watch. And look at the link in the poll at the top of your screen. It's in the chat. Click on that link and make sure you pre-order the book. Okay. Click on that link and make sure you pre-order the book. I had so much more. I had all these sound bites and stuff prepared for you. Let's see what I had. And I just started talking to Pete and I got off. We beat Medicare. Okay, we've seen that. We showed the difference between him and Paul Ryan. Let's see. So producers, just really quickly, Biden debating Paul Ryan in 2012. Can we just play a little bit of that? Here's Joe Biden debating Paul Ryan in 2012.
It was going to cut. No, number one, in terms of tax expenditures. Number two, 97% of the small businesses in America make less than $250,000. Let me tell you who some of those other small businesses are. Hedge funds that make $600-800 million a year. That's what they count as small businesses because they're pass through. Let's look at how sincere they are. Governor Romney on 60 Minutes, I guess it was about 10 days ago, was asked, Governor, you pay 14% on $20 million. Someone making $50,000 pays more than that. Do you think that's fair? He said, oh, yes, that's fair. That's fair. And they're going to talk about, you think these guys are going to go out there and cut those loopholes?
Okay, so that was Joe Biden in 2012. Now let's do Joe Biden from the debate the other day where he talks about beating Medicare. Now listen, so the vibrancy and the energy from Joe Biden in 2012. Now let's play the debate from the other night, just so you guys can see.
Things we need to do: child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare.
Thank
you. Okay. So, yeah, I know. Lippy Lefty says, please turn it off. I know. That's the reality. Okay. All right. Now let's see this is his presidential immunity speech. This was just yesterday, I believe. Watch this.
And that power always resides with the people. Always. Now, over 200 years later, today's Supreme Court decision, once again, it'll depend on the character of the men and women who hold that presidency that are going to define the limits of the power of the presidency, because the law will no longer do it. I know I will respect the limits of the presidential powers I have for 3.5 years, but any president, including Donald Trump, will now be free to ignore the law.
Okay. That's good enough. So listen, he was much better with the immunity speech yesterday. Remember, that's on teleprompter and that's scripted. So someone in the chat just says, I blame his prep team. I do blame the prep team in a way. I can't tell you. Look, I'm not making any excuses for his performance. I think they over-prepared him. It was too much. You don't need that. Look at what Donald Trump didn't have any facts. He said like 3 or 4 things the entire night. He just kept hitting them. That's all the president needed to do. And then guess what? There's going to be another, if he stays in this, there's going to be another debate. Okay? There's going to be another debate. And so there you go. But listen, when we were playing the two, you see the difference, right? And look, I'm not as fast as I was in my 30s and 40s, right? I had trouble recalling. I said, hold that thought just a short time ago, and I couldn't even remember that. Listen, it happens to all of us. All right. So anyways, I love you guys, but make sure you please click the link in the chat and my book. And my book is called I Once Was Lost, My Search for God in America. I Once Was Lost, My Search for God in America. It's available for pre-order. It comes out in September, and we want to make it a bestseller because we want people to read it. All of you, each of you should read it before the election, because there's some really important things in there that you need to know. It's not necessarily a political book. It's a common sense book, but it's also very relatable to everyone, even if you're a non-believer. So make sure you buy one for your friend, pre-order it, for as many times as you want, and give it as a gift. You can give it as a fall gift, a late summer gift. Okay. So make sure you do that, and make sure you hit the thumbs up, and then I will see you next time. I'm so happy to be back with you. We have some great shows planned for you for the rest of the week. And then maybe we'll do a backyard show for the 4th of July. And, we'll barbecue or grill together. Okay. So be well. Thank you for understanding that I couldn't be there with you every day last week because I was on my honeymoon, but I'm happy to be back. And if you like this new time, perhaps we'll do it now. We'll do it later, 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock. The engagement seems to be higher. Okay. Barbecue at Don's house. I wish you all could come over. Thank you guys for watching the Don Lemon Show. We'll see you next time. Like and subscribe, and make sure you hit the pre-order for the book. Okay. See you tomorrow.